Hi guys, I hope this video finds everybody healthy and safe. Today will be the first day that we're going to start with kind of our distance learning model. So here's the idea. I'm going to go through kind of some pieces on a video, kind of like what I would send you normally during the school year. We're going to go over some basic ideas, and then I'm going to send you a link to an online assignment that's just going to have a few problems on it, and a piece where you're going to be able to give me a little feedback about where you're at and what you remember and that kind of stuff. Remember, during this, you are welcome to email me, text me, or call me, whatever it is that you need to do, or respond back to the remind if you need some extra help, because I can tutor you from home. I just have to know what's going on. Okay, so first of all, we're going to talk a little bit about parts of an algebraic expression, seeing what you remember. We're also in this section going to talk a little bit about combining like terms. Because in order to be able to do what we're going to do with adding and subtracting and multiplying polynomials, our focus until the end of the year is going to be to really make sure you understand these things. So first of all, an algebraic expression, remember, is something that is made up of numbers and variables. And typically it uses add or subtract signs. Okay, now when we're done with this video, or as we're going, if you want to hit pause and take a picture, if you want to hit pause and take some notes, that's going to be really helpful to you when you go to answer questions later on. Okay, a variable is basically a letter that stands for an unknown amount. So when we've solved for equations before, we've had the variable of x, and we've got an x equal to 10. All the stuff that we're doing is going to kind of go back to what you already know and what we've been talking about all year. Okay, a constant is a number-only value. Okay, a term is part of an expression separated by add or subtract symbols. Coefficient is a number in front of a variable. Like terms are pieces we can combine to make one value. Okay, so that's kind of the basic idea vocabulary-wise of what those expressions look like. So let's take a look at one here. So first of all on this, that 5x squared plus 9x minus 7, this is considered to be an algebraic expression. The whole thing together. Now, the x part, x is considered to be a variable. So you'll see that there's an x squared and an x. Those are both variables. That's the variable part. This minus 7 or negative 7 on the end would be a constant value because it's number only. Okay, now I'm going to give you an example of kind of a long string of them, and we'll talk about what parts you remember and what parts go with what specific vocabulary word. So I have 9y squared plus 7y minus 2 plus y minus 5 minus 4y squared. Okay, so first of all, if I were to take each of those and kind of separate them. So here's one. Here's the next term. Here's the next one. Here's the next one. Here's the next one. And here's the next one. I want you to notice that I took the sign that was in front of it. So for example, if it's minus 5, remember we're going to treat that like negative 5. So as far as terms, all of those are terms. So that means 9y squared, positive 7y, minus 2 I'm going to write as negative 2. I have plus y, so I'm just going to write that as y. Negative 5 and negative 4y squared. Notice I was able to write them all down. Okay, coefficients. Coefficients would be numbers that stood in front of variables. So in this first one, you can see there's a coefficient of 9. This one has a coefficient of 7. Now in this one, there's no number in front. But remember what we talked about before. If there's no number, we assume that's a 1. So that would be a coefficient of 1. And then this one would have a coefficient of negative 4. Okay, we good so far as making sure you understand the vocabulary part. So like terms are ones where I can combine it with another value. So for example, these two right here would be like terms because they have the exact identical variable that's there, which is a y squared. So 9y squared and negative 4y squared are like terms. Okay, now if I look at this one, I have positive 7 and I have y. So 7y and y would be another pair of like terms. Then these two right here are both numbers. So they're like terms. So negative 2 and negative 5. Now, the one thing that I didn't talk about on this was the constant value. So the constant value is the number only value. And in this case, it would be negative 2 and negative 5. Now, I'm just worried about vocabulary right now. In just a second, we're going to go back to combining like terms. But I want to make sure that vocabulary is back to you. Okay? Okay, so I have a few here of things that I can kind of combine. And we're going to go back to two things. Most of you talked about when we talked about adding these before, just like I would take this problem, most of you, if you went to solve it, would do this. Because I would want to get my ones lined up and my tens and my hundreds. So by doing that kind of adding, which you did in elementary school, that really puts like terms together. So we kind of have to do the same thing with these. So in number 1, it's 10x plus 3y plus 5x. So if I look at this, I can see I have a term of x and I have a term of y. So remember, if you have more than one letter or if you have numbers and letters, do the letters in alphabetical order, the variables. And if you have a number only value, it goes in the very end. So now we just need to sort. So 10x is going to go in the x column. Plus 3y goes in the y column. Plus 5x goes in the x column. So if I were to add these up, I'm just going to be able to get the number part together. So if I were to do that, that would be 15x. And because there's no value with this y, if you want to assume there's a 0 there, that's fine. But most kids are pretty comfortable bringing this down. Now, standard form says letters should go in alphabetical order. So make sure if you have X and Y, X would come first and Y would come second. So let's take a look at number 2. In number 2 again, I have X's and Y's. So I'm going to start to get my columns kind of set up. So I have 9Y plus 3Y. Oops. I guess I got to put them in the right column. There we go. Got them in the Y column. Oops. Undo. There we go. Okay. The X column, I'm going to have 5X. So it's going to be 5X plus 12Y. Okay. On number 3, I have a couple spots where I have variables and I don't have any numbers. So the first thing I'm going to do is add ones in front. And then I'm going to go through and start to sort. So I'm going to have X's and Y's. So far, I've only used X and Y, just trying to get you back in the swing of how this works. So 8X, positive 1X, negative 2X, plus 1Y. So in this, 8 and 1 together would be 9. Minus 2 would be 7. So 7X. And then I would just bring the 1Y down. And then remember, usually I'm going to drop that 1 in front of the Y because I assume it's there whether I write it or not. So my final answer is going to be 7X plus Y. Now, 4 is a little bit different. I wanted you to see another one of these. When I look, I have variables of X squared, X, and then I have numbers. So when I start talking about columns, I want to make sure I get all the kinds of variables together that are alike. So if I have an X and an X squared, they kind of get treated like separate variables. So I have 4X squared plus 5 plus 7X plus 3X squared. So totaling this will give me 7X squared plus 7X plus 5. Okay, now remember, you can go back and watch this again if you need to. Remember, you can go through and take notes, whatever it is that you need to do to make sure that you kind of remember how this is set up. This first part is kind of review, so I'm hoping you'll feel that way. And then again, if you get stuck or you have questions, email me, text me, respond to the remind, or call me. Any of those are okay. Okay, good luck, guys.